This week's channeled message from the angels is about shifting the collective consciousness away from the human physical concept of loss and moving us more into our more spiritual perspective of the regeneration, the constant regeneration and recreation of things. So, welcome back to my channel, you guys. And for those of you who are new here, if this is your first time, my name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. And by trance channel, I mean that I go into a deep meditative state, sort of like a trance. And then I raise my awareness up as high as I can go. And then I go just a little bit higher and I connect, and the information and the healing starts to come through. So I transcribe these messages and then I share them here with you guys on YouTube. So, and this week's message is it's a very clear, I think a very clear message, and a very helpful message. If the big question is, how do we deal with fear? How do we clear fear from the collective? And I think this is how we do it: is we try to shift away from this idea that that idea that we are dependent on the things that we have in our life, that sense of that what we have is so precious that we can't let it go. It's that feeling of like, no, that there's a constant renewal that runs through you. If you let go of something, something new moves in to fill it. It's that idea. So getting comfortable and getting rid of the feeling of loss and moving it into this feeling of constant regeneration. So I hope you enjoy the message. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, this would be a great time to do it. I bring a new message every Friday for you guys, so I wouldn't want you to miss it. All right, enjoy the message. Okay, here's what they say. What is this housing you are in? This entry point, this bathing journey of the senses that overtake you. This time coming, your presence, your entry is less ringing, less founded in what is past. A new start, a new happening for the body, a new agony that you are leaving. There is among yourselves an understanding of consecrated ground, of what is happening on earth and all around yourselves, that this is a blessing. What will pass? And this is true. But also know around you there are energies of construction, of building and desiccation. There is an unfurling of things that is happening that relies upon the unleashing of what was, the unflowering of that old regime, the life drawn out and from that which was living, which then returns to source for new openings. There is a cyclical nature to all things, to the start and return of life-bringing. And you know this as eternal beings. You see the selves and your offering renewed each time you are living. But the understanding now, as you are present on earth and in this opening, the deflowering is difficult in comparison to living. The understanding of the selves as now present on earth, now having the presence of your mind encapsulated by the body, sensing, feeling as if earth was your captive, held ground. It rises to the self, becomes a fear. A fear of leaving, of emptying, of loss forthcoming. And we say to the selves, you're not leaving, nothing is ending, only beginning, rebirthing, a restart to all things, to let go of the concept of loss entirely, to let go of the construction of earth beings that living and dying are done separately, to let this leave your consciousness, to let loose amongst yourselves a more fluid conceptual framework for living, that which dwells within the conscious self, who makes itself present and departs and arrives again, a continuation. There is within this deflowering of the earth herself the deconstruction, the desiccation that is needed. For the materials of herself must be drawn toward that new living. The old things, old ways of being must be broken down so that their fodder can be made use of. They are the building blocks of new living. You must see in this chaos and destruction a process of origination, not merely loss, but restructuring for yourselves, for all beings. A new housing will come forward, a new way of understanding yourselves in the context of this new earth. Her gravity does not change. Her instrumentation remains solid. Yourselves here on top, you feel her differently. You feel her as one who was opened, who is now pronouncing herself made from friction, who feels the self as evolved and no longer bearing the crucifixion. To the selves, we are offering this truth of now time passing, that you must evolve as she does, an evolution of sorts in which you are releasing that which one does know as property or belongings, as people worth knowing, as places you've been, and seeing them shattered. This is happening, but understand the destruction is only living, that it is the regeneration, the fluidity of conceptual now passing, processing, that it is happening of belonging to earth and her structure, her process, which you are a part of. It is happening for joyful purpose, for the upleveling of yourselves and herself as well, to accept this now. For your eternal selves, the opportunity rises within this, to exercise your wandering, limitless fodder for existential discovery. And we ask the selves to process what is happening from this perspective, above that fear that consolidates within the consciousness of human selves. To let the self gather your instruments and point the north towards solace that we bring. Let yourselves feel the anger of times past leaving within the destruction that is happening. Let the selves feel the joyful rising in your breath of the next anticipated dawning. And feel, as these times are scattered and laid down, that they are drawn back to earth for her processing to be renewed. You are held by us at all times with blessings. So there you go. So it is this message definitely, I think we take this message in the context of everything else that we know, everything else that they've told us, everything we know about what's coming, that this is a process. We have been going through this process of regeneration, right? If things have been unfolding, there have been a lot of earth changes that we are experiencing already, a lot of loss that has happened. And we can see that as loss, and we can experience it as loss in our human selves and our way of understanding the world. And I think we get really locked into this human experience and understand things as finite, that a thing comes and then it dies and it's gone forever. And then we miss it, right? And they're saying they want us to rise above that and take on this new perspective and try to move this into the conscious collective to help us away from our fear. Our fear. Loss, I think, is probably the biggest thing that causes fear. The fear of losing something, of what we have. It's like a piece of ourselves. It feels like a death in a way. And I think that's why it creates so much fear. So let's break this down if you guys are ready. Let's go paragraph by paragraph and talk it through. All right. So they say, what is this housing you are in? This entry point, this bathing journey of the senses that overtakes you. And I love that, bathing journey of the senses that overtakes you. So I think here they were referring to this idea that when you're in the human body, the senses, the five senses are so strong, they overtake us, that I think it is because of the fact that the physical reality is so potent that is what influences our forgetting of who we really are, that we just get overwhelmed. It overtakes us, right? The physical experience seems so real and so true. They say, this time coming, your presence, your entry is less ringing, less founded in what is past. A new start, a new happening for the body, a new agony that you are leaving. So they're talking here about this big shift that we're going through, right? That a new time coming, your presence, your entry is less ringing, less founded in what is past. So the way things have been are no longer going to be guiding us, that we have to be really open as much as we possibly can be, to be open to the idea that we don't always know what's going to be coming, and to be okay with that, and to just trust in our connection, trust in who we are as divine spirit, right? And to let things be unknown. And if we had to logically analyze in a context where everything's changing around us, if we have to think our way through it, that is a recipe for exhaustion. That is exhausting, because you have to process and see it and think, and it's very tiring. But if you just sort of hand over the reins and say, okay, I am whole, I'm full of myself, my own divine energy, and I'm just going to let myself be guided through this, then it can be a really freeing experience. You don't have to know what's coming. And that's what they're trying to guide us towards. All right, next paragraph. Then they say a new agony that you are leaving. I think that refers to each new birth, each new life that we've had is a new agony. Well, But it's kind of true. Like life can be hard. It can be tough. But we're leaving that behind. The idea that each life is an agony, we leave that behind. And now this new thing is this karma free. They've been talking about that for several messages now, that we're going to be getting rid of the concept of karma, that life doesn't have to be so painful anymore. Yeah. And Mike is saying disaster. Yeah. Yeah. The disasters, they're definitely like that. They're talking about the chaos, things changing. Yeah, definitely disasters. Okay, this upcoming next paragraph, they say, there is among yourselves an understanding of consecrated ground, of what is happening on earth and all around yourselves, that this is a blessing, what will pass. And this is true. So we are understanding that this whole chaos that's happening is being guided by spirit. And they're saying, yep, you have this feeling that it's consecrated ground, that this is all being held. This is a blessing. This whole process is a blessing. They're confirming, yes, that is true. But they're saying here, but don't forget. They're saying, but also know around you, there are energies of construction, of building, and desiccation. So there is an unfurling of things that is happening that relies upon the unleashing of what was, the unflowering that turns the unflowering of that old regime, the life drawn out and from that which was living, which then returns to the source for new opening. So this is I think they're saying, yes, they've been telling us that this whole process is being held by the angels, that this is for our upliftment, and that is great. But what they don't want us to do is, as we're thinking about this, to bypass the truth of the fact that we are going to get to that beautiful destination. We have to go through some stuff. And they're saying they don't want us to not pay attention to that at the moment, because they don't want it to just catch us off guard. They're trying to get us to a place where we can be present for it, and we have a way of processing it that doesn't put us in fear. That's the goal, right? So they're saying, and so they're describing it, but also know around you there are energies of construction, of building, and desiccation. So desiccation, angel word of the day, desiccation, and that means the removal of water, of moisture. So think about what water means. It means spirit. It means life. So they are talking about loss of life, loss of spirit. It's like, think of spirit, and I love that choice, of course. I love that choice of words, because it implies that spirit is energy. That energy comes to the planet, and it takes on whatever form it takes. It becomes anything. And some of it is what we create, right? Some of it is the things of our own creation, but it can become an ant, it can become an aardvark, it can become one of us, it can be something, right? That energy, that spirit comes in. And then this spirit, that whatever it came into, desiccates. The moisture leaves it, the water leaves it, but it doesn't just disappear, it just leaves it, and it goes into another thing. So this is the whole concept they're trying, and we know this, but do we feel it, right? You know this in the head, but has it made into your body? Has it made it into a place where you're so comfortable with it that you feel it in your being with such certainty that you have no fear? And that's the goal. That's the goal that they're trying to get us to. So that is why they're bringing us through this thinking, right? And so they go on to say, okay, next paragraph. They say, they also, by the way, the consecrated ground. I wanted to explain that. In the beginning, they say, there is among yourselves an understanding of consecrated ground. So, and that means they're talking about the earth being consecrated. Consecrated means to be declared sacred, holy, or suitable for spiritual purpose. So there's the understanding of this place of earth as being a spiritual home for us. And so that's what that reference was to. Yeah. Okay, next paragraph. There is a cyclical nature to all things, to the start and return of life bringing. And you know this as eternal beings. You see the selves and your offering renewed each time you are living. So they know, we acknowledge this, we know this, like all of you know this, that this is, reincarnation happens and we come back again and again. And many of you were like right in the middle of doing battle with your past lives. And yes, we know this, but it doesn't change the feeling of loss. And so that's why they're bringing it up again. We got to deal with the feeling of loss. So they say, but the understanding now as you are present on earth in this opening, the deflowering is difficult in comparison to living. So they're saying, even if we know this, even if we have this total faith and understanding that we are eternal, we are so in, and that's what they were talking about in the first paragraph, about the fact that our five senses take over, that we are so in the body that it is very difficult for us to get comfortable with loss. It feels like a deprivation to the body, right? To our human aspect of ourselves. right? They say the deflowering is difficult in comparison to living. They say the understanding of the selves as being now present on earth, now having the presence of your mind encapsulated by the body. So this is a reference to the fact that this is the physical body really experiences loss as a physical thing. And from this 3D comprehension, right? They say sensing, feeling as if earth was your captive held ground, it rises to the self, becomes a fear. So there's the sense that from the physical perspective, they say, okay, sensing, feeling as if earth was your captive held ground. There's a claiming that happens to us physically in terms of our life. We are like, this is my home, this is my paper, this is my whatever, right? Like this is who I am. Like I am built of these things. I am a person who lives in this house, who has this sweater. It says something about me, right? This is who I am. There's identity involved in it. So this claiming that happens in terms of our way of defining our life, and it is about being physical, that we get super wrapped up in the physicality of our lives. Like think about what are your favorite places to go, like your favorite restaurant, your favorite coffee shop, your favorite hike. You know, all of these things become part of our experience and we get attached to them and we define our life by these routines or these things that surround us. So we sense, feel the earth as our captive held ground. We claim it. And when we claim something, we are requiring that it doesn't change. We're saying, this is mine and I want to hold it in place because it's part of me. But we know because of this constant evolution that nothing ever stays in place. That things are always changing. And you know this if you've ever like if you've moved away from where you grew up and moved back again, and it's that strange disconcerting feeling, like walking through your old elementary school and you're like, this used to feel a lot bigger. You know, these hallways seem way bigger than they do now. There's this sense that it's jarring to us that things change. And even though we know it up here, but we don't know it in here, right? And so this is the work to be done. Yeah. And you're saying, heck no, not yet, but would love it. You say good morning and good morning. Would love to live without fear. Yes, that's what you're saying. Yeah, exactly, right? And I know it's challenging, and that's why they're talking about it so much right now. Yeah. You're saying, I feel because we claim the mind as our own instead of of us being in it. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Mike. I think it's that by the mind, it is a claiming that happens through our thinking selves, for sure. And instead of being in the body and living in this more fluid state, which is what we're really trying to get to. So they're just trying to shine a light on another piece of this puzzle for us. Help us to see it in a new way that can potentially help us with our fear, help us with processing what's going on around us in a real way, not in a way where we're going to just like, okay, I'm not going to see it, which there's something to be said for that sometimes. Like that can be good sometimes, but at a certain point we have to open our eyes, right? And when we do, we want to be in a state of mind where we're going to take it in grace and we're going to see it from the larger spiritual perspective. So they go on to say, so it is that when we hold on to things and that clutching, that grasping rises from the self and becomes a fear. So this is where they're identifying where fear comes from. It's from that fear of loss, of something, anything. Okay, next paragraph. A fear of leaving, of emptying, of loss forthcoming. And we say to the selves, you're not leaving, nothing is ending, only beginning, rebirthing. A restart to all things. And when they say that you're not leaving, they're talking about you're not dying, like there's no death for you. You're just constant rebirth. Like it's like in other words, they're trying to reference the fact that you are eternal. There's not this sense of it's gonna all happen and then your spark goes out. Like that's just we know that's not true. They say nothing is ending, only beginning, rebirthing, a restart to all things. And then they say to let go of the concept of loss entirely. So this is the goal. How do we do this? To let go of the construction of earth beings that living and dying are done separately. So here's a big one, right? That this idea that living is one, or that birth is one thing and dying is something else. Rather than just noticing that dying is just another birth. It is a transition, that birth is a transition from spirit into physical form, and death is a transition from physical form back into spirit. It's just transitioning. So there is no such thing as like birth and death as being identical. They're both births. Everything is birth. Everything's always birth. It's constant birth. And death, or the desiccation as they call it, is just the movement of spirit from one form to another. So if you follow the spirit and don't get attached to the form, that's what they're trying to get us to. And you're saying, how can we assist with this process be as smooth as possible? That and they do go into this a bit more, so let's keep reading. But that is a great question, Linda. Like, how do we get used to the concept? And I think some of it is the fear and the clinging to life is a mental construct. And so it is through our thinking, through awareness of our thinking, through our awareness, that we can choose to feel differently. That the mind can override this concept that of loss. That it is something that we are conditioned to experience through the five senses, but we know better. And so it's something I think that we have to go through. It's becoming super conscious of our thoughts of loss and trying to shift into this new way of thinking about things being eternal. And it's really about welcoming when something moves away from you, rather than grieving the loss of it, saying, well, that means something new is coming, because you have a finite amount of, you have a space to fill that is your life and your field. And if something leaves it, it creates a vacuum for something new to come in. So hopefully the thing that leaves is something that was of a vibration you've outgrown. And then the new thing that's coming in is going to be a better match. So to celebrate the things that leave, to recognize, okay, that thing is leaving, that special mug I love that just broke, right? It's leaving. Well, then something new is going to come in to fill that space, something I will love more, that I will enjoy more. And I'll tell you, this process of learning to leave things has been a major part of my life, that it has been part of my journey. It actually says it in my astrology. A big part of my life has been the process of building things, big things, and then being put in a position where I have to leave them, creating something like a significant chunk of work and then having to leave it. And so I have built houses upon houses upon houses. Every time I was like, oh, this is the last one. I'm going to live in, this is my perfect house. I'm going to live in this house forever. And I've done it like 6 or 7 times where I have done a major build and built a house, loved it, and then life happened and I had to sell it. And every time there was something in that house, there was always like some really special touch, something I did that I just loved. One time it was, I took these fireplace andirons and I had them custom made into sconces. And another time it was these incredible hand-carved doors that I found on Craigslist for a song, And another house, it was these like phenomenal draperies that cost a fortune. And anyways, every time I left, I was always tempted to take that special thing with me. And it was that desire. It's like, oh, I just didn't want to leave it behind because it was so lovely. And the one time I gave in, I took the draperies because those were easy. I could just unhook them and bring them with, And I carried those because I kept moving and moving because that was part of my path. I kept moving and moving and moving and bringing them with me in these bags until they were so out of style that nobody wanted them. And it was so sad, I mean, they were gorgeous in their original place. They could still be there. And instead, I ended up I think giving them away because they lost their value. I took them from the space they were meant to be. And so it was just always a lesson to let things move away from me, that these homes that I spent so much effort, and boy, talk about that. If you guys have ever done any kind of remodel project, these were major total house construction rebuilds, years worth of work. And it just over and over and over again, I would finish it. I'd get to live into it for a year or two, and then I'd have to sell it and move. And yeah, it was a journey. But what I realized is there's always another house. Every house I've ever lived in has had something magic about it, has had something that I've really enjoyed about it. And so it's getting really comfortable with that idea of loss and rebirth. It's not loss. It's just moving. It's energy moving out of one thing and into the next thing. So that, yeah, anyways, I digress. As I am known to do. Okay, so let's go into the next paragraph here. And you are saying, a great way to explain it. Thank you so much, Maya. I appreciate it. And you say, back to what we are. Yes, back to this whole concept of that we are spirit, right? And being able to accept our actual awareness. Yeah. And I think that is the being able to accept our awareness. We accept it up here, but to bring it down into the body where we feel it emotionally. That's the thing we're trying to work with right now as a collective consciousness. That's part of when we talk about this next level of human evolution, we're trying to get to that state where the body is less in control and our spirit has a lot more say. And that means not being so affected by loss. All right. Where are we now? I read that part. Let me make sure I didn't lose a piece here. Okay. The next paragraph, there is this within this deflowering of Earth herself, the deconstruction, the desiccation that is needed. For the materials of herself must be drawn toward that new living. The old things, old ways of being must be broken down so that their fodder can be made use of. They are the building blocks of new living. You must see in this chaos and destruction a process of origination, not merely loss, but a restructuring for yourselves, for all being. So, and there again, that's that word of that things have to be broken down so that their fodder can be made use of. So this is an interesting idea, is this what they would call a closed energy system? Is there a certain amount of energy on the planet and that we have to take from Peter to pay Paul? Like we have to, I don't even know where that saying came from, but it just popped into my head. But that whole idea that in order to grow a tree, that some other plants have to die so that carbon goes back into the earth and it becomes the tree, right? That energy has to move from one place to another. So this destruction, if we're going to have a new earth, some stuff has to die so that there is the energy that's required and the material, whether it be spiritual substance or maybe it's actual minerals or who knows what, that has to go into this new that's coming. So we can't have the new without letting go of the old. Yeah. All right. And next paragraph, they say, a new housing will come forward, a new way of understanding yourselves in the context of this new earth. Her gravity does not change. Her instrumentation remains solid. Yourselves here on top, you feel her differently. You feel her as one who has opened, who is now pronouncing herself made from friction, who feels the self as evolved and no longer bearing the crucifixion. I love this paragraph. I think this is super cool. So a new housing comes forward. So this is like being different in our own bodies, being embodied differently, right? A new way of understanding ourselves in the context of this new earth. So think about how different this would be if we were able to release this concept of loss, how different our relationship to being embodied would be, and how our relationship to just our whole existence as humans would be so dramatically different. They say that in terms of Earth, they're saying that her gravity doesn't change, her instrumentation remains solid, so the Earth is still, like, the physics still apply, but here on top we feel that her spirit is different, that the Earth, her as a soul, she is different. And they say that she is now, as a soul, she has opened. So I think it's a lot like, I feel like the big work of being a human, of being embodied during this entire past thousands of years, has been to open our hearts. The goal has been to balance our male and female side, our masculine and feminine energy, and to open our hearts. And so here they're saying that she has opened. So it makes me think that it makes sense. We are the neurons of the earth. It would make sense that has been her process too, that the earth is in the process of trying to open her heart, right? That you feel her as one who has opened, who is now pronouncing herself made from friction, just like us. We are made from friction, from our karma, from all the stuff that has been against us, that we have had to work through. That has made us, right? Same as the earth. Her friction has made her. They say then who feels the self as evolved and no longer bearing the crucifixion. So that means to me that the earth no longer bearing the crucifixion means that this is no longer a realm of karma, that this whole concept of sin, that where with the crucifixion, the idea that Jesus had to die on the cross to heal us of our sin, like that's a karmic construct. And so that whole concept, saying that she doesn't, that whole thing goes away in this new earth, in this new consciousness. How cool is that, right? How amazing is that? Yeah. And you're saying, Karen is saying, kind of like a kaleidoscope. The parts are always reassembling into something new. Oh, love that. Yeah, absolutely. That is a great analogy. Thank you. And you're saying no borders, just tribes moving in terms of what the new earth will be like. Yeah, I think that there is supposed to be a big movement of people and a change about what we think of as nations and all that kind of stuff. But that could unfold over quite a bit of time. I don't know. And you're saying, Jay is saying, not just balance male and female, but to balance all polarities. Yes, I would agree with that too. That we're trying to get into balance in all ways. Yeah, totally. All right. They go on to say, to the selves, we are offering this truth of now time passing, that you must evolve as she does, an evolution of sorts in which you are releasing that which one does know, as property or belongings, as people worth knowing, as places you've been, and seeing them shattered. And this is the hard part. This is the part where they're saying that we individually may experience loss, and that loss could come in the form of personal property or belongings, and think about people who have already experienced flooding and war, and I mean all the craziness that's been going on, that there are people who are already deeply in the experience of loss, and that could be people worth knowing. So people you probably have already known people who've died in the pandemic or have been affected by flood or whatever it is. And then they say, and the places that you've been. And so for me, I think about that, like I haven't traveled a lot in the last couple of years, because it was like, first it was the lockdown and and then it was just busy. Life happened, and I've been wanting to travel. And I personally feel a little mourning at the idea that there could be all these changes, and what if I never get to go to these, like, there's places that I've been before that I would love to go back to, like, so I got to let that go. Either that or I need to just get on a plane and just go do it. But anyways, I need to let that go and recognize that what will come up in its place will be something equally worth doing. And that's this. So anyways, this is for me too. Every message is for all of us, is for me too. All right. And seeing them shattered. So this is that idea that we have to, it's about going through this, not around it, that we can, in those moments when we feel like things are too much, it is perfectly acceptable to draw into yourself when it's chaos outside, to recognize that we create our own reality, be within ourselves, understand that you are safe within your four walls, but at a certain point you will also recognize that the earth has changed and that things are different, and we have to have a way of processing that. So that's when they say that we need to be aware and ready for this, right? To accept this now. All right. They go on to say, where is this? Okay, so people worth knowing shattered. This is happening, but understand the destruction is only living. So destruction there is no such thing as destruction. It is a moving, it's living. Destruction is also living. That it is the regeneration, the fluidity of conceptual now processing, that it is happening of belonging to Earth and her structure, her process, which you are a part of. So this just comes part and parcel with being on Earth, that this is how Earth works, that Earth is like a closed system where things, like they said, we got to reuse the substance that was this to make the new thing. So this is part of how Earth is structured. They say it is happening for joyful purpose, for the up-leveling of yourselves and herself as well, to accept this now. So this is what they're asking us to do. For your eternal selves, the opportunity rises within this to exercise your wandering, limitless fodder for existential discovery. So this is what's in it for us, is that through this process of letting things pass, letting this move away, this experience of what we would think of as loss, this desiccation, the movement of spirit away from something that we used to know into something that we're just discovering. They're saying to exercise our wandering, limitless fodder for existential discovery. So it is by allowing this recreation that we continue to give ourselves a place for our own growth and healing, that it is creating a new experience, that it is very, very possible to move through life without a lot of growth. Super possible. Like you could lock yourself in a room and just say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go put myself in the things that scare me. I'm going to stay in a safe space. And that is super, super possible. And if you do that, then you're not confronted, and it feels much more peaceful. But I can tell you this, that there have been aspects of my life, like I took a break from after my second divorce. And I've been divorced twice, but 2 big time karmic relationships. And after the second one, I took like 4 years off from dating. And during that time, my healing, I had healing dreams for a bit, and then they stopped. I didn't have any more healing dreams, and I had only dreams about other things. And I started having dreams about other people, and dreams about my work, and dreams about all kinds of stuff, but no healing dreams. And I thought, I guess I'm done. Done with healing. Yay, me. And then I started dating again, and boom, healing dreams are back. And what it was is that, okay, if I chose not to engage, if I chose, there were certain issues that could only be healed in relationship, particularly because I'm a Libra. My sun sign is Libra. So for me, my path forward in terms of healing is through relationship. And yes, there was other stuff that worked through in that time period. But when I opened the door to that type of relationship again, then the healing could begin again. And so it was a big lesson to me, an eye-opening of like, oh, okay. It really is true that we, by putting ourselves out there, by engaging in the world and in life and going to where the fear is, right? Going to what scares you, that is where the healing is. That's where the opportunity is for us to face ourselves. So it is definitely, I've definitely found that to be true for myself and for others that I know too. And you're saying, let's see, sorry, let me catch up with your comments. You're saying, I would like to believe that we are creating heaven on earth, but I'm not even sure what that would be like, honestly. Yeah, I think that there is always the possibility of having heaven on earth. And I think that we can have it in the new earth. I think we can even have it to some degree now in your own personal experience. That I think that what we're trying to get to is a place where we are free of our own judgment, and where we are living and experiencing life from a place of joy. And that doesn't mean that it's always perfect, that there's moments of learning, but we see those as moments of learning and not as a restriction of ourself or a way that we have to keep ourselves confined or unexpressed or whatever it is. It is, think of living a life on earth where your soul, your reason for being is to learn about yourself by putting yourself in different situations and seeing what you do, but always without judgment and without ever being wrong, with only learning, right? And I think that is what we're trying to move to. Like, that's the goal. Yeah. And you're saying, to me, it would be something like caretaking gardeners in power. I do think that there's definitely a role for us in the new earth. Things are evolving in being caretakers of earth, 100%, because we are the neurons of the earth. So yes, absolutely, it would be being much more responsible and caretaking the earth. Yeah, and you think, I think it's for to choose to do, which is for to choose. Mike, could you clarify? And then you're saying, yes, thank you, Anne. You're super welcome. All right. So yeah, Mike, clarify what you're saying there, if you would. All right. So here is the next bit of the paragraph. Okay. They're saying that it's happening for joyful purpose, for the up-leveling of yourselves and herself as well, to accept this now. I think I read that to you guys already. There we go. Okay. So next paragraph. For your eternal selves, the opportunity rises within this to exercise your wandering, limitless fodder for existential discoveries. That's what we were just talking about. And we ask the selves to process what is happening from this perspective, above that fear that consolidates within the consciousness of human selves. So this is the big message here, right? Is that we ask ourselves to process what is happening from this perspective, from the spiritual perspective, that there is no such thing as loss. Nothing ever goes away. It just recreates, and that we cannot welcome in the new unless we release the old, that we have to allow the spirit to move from the old things into the new, and to recognize that you will never be left with nothing, that your field is think of it as like it's at stasis, and if something leaves, it creates a vacuum and something else comes in. So welcome it, like welcome change. And there's some times where you can mourn the loss of something and you can love the thing that was, but always do it with the understanding that that thing, it doesn't belong to your energy anymore, most likely because you evolved away from it, most likely because you are growing. So it's a good sign. Usually it's a really good sign in terms of what's happening for you. Just like this, like the earth losing stuff, like stuff being destroyed is really tough for us to see, because we see it as the human toll, the suffering of the people who lose loved ones and the hardship of that. But from the earth's perspective, she is making space. She's pulling herself back in so that she can bloom into something more beautiful, right? All right. So we want to consolidate above that fear that consolidates within the consciousness of human self. So by doing this, we are affecting, if each of us can hold this a little bit more, we are part of that collective consciousness. We create that breath of possibility for everyone. And that's what they're trying to encourage us to do. Let yourself feel the anger of times past leaving with the destruction that is happening. I love that. That this process that we're going through is about purging anger. So it's the dark energies, but it's like low vibration. We're trying to heal the earth of these low vibrations that won't be able to be here in this new earth, right? It won't be able to exist any longer. Everything is shifting up an octave, right? Let the selves feel the joyful rising in your breath of the next anticipated dawning, and feel as these times are scattered and laid down, they are drawn back to earth for processing to be renewed. And I love their choice. It just dawned on me here. And feel as these times are scattered and laid down. That sounds like ashes, right? Of course. Because what do we do when we, cremation, we scatter to the earth, it's ashes, and that then is brought into the earth and as carbon and create something new, right? So I just love that. Just realized that they did that. They are drawn back to earth for processing to be renewed. So you are held by us at all times with blessings. So I think it's a super cool message. And this is a thinky message for sure. This is about our mental perspective and being aware of our thought patterns and our process, our habitual thinking about loss. And we can retrain ourselves to think differently about it. It is possible. I know that for sure because I have done that. It's been part of my journey. Like I said, to not mourn the leaving behind of all these different little lives that I created that I thought was going to be, the place forever. And everyone just letting it go and moving on to the next and being receptive to, okay, what's going to fill this, what is now a void? What's going to fill it? How is it going to be? And I can tell you each time it wasn't always awesome immediately, but it became awesomer. It did. Eventually, it became more awesome. So, yeah. And you're saying, wow, it makes so much sense. And I feel better knowing this because it's been such a changing time for me the last 5-6 years. A lot of movement in my life and losses. Sorry to hear that, Wendy. Humbling and quiet time in the mind. I won't stop and give up, i.e. I've felt several times just evolving. Yes, I thank you so much for sharing that, Wendy. You are 100% right. And I think you are not alone in going through a period of loss. I think it is something that's shared by so many right now. And yeah, to recognize that that void in your field, like something else is going to fill it. It might not be the perfect thing, but know that you are moving towards the better thing. And to let it just flow. Let it flow naturally. Don't overanalyze it. Don't overthink it. Just trust. Trust that you were able to create something good before, and you have been growing. Therefore, what you are creating in the future is going to be better. And you can count on that. So if you just allow it, stay out of resistance, see it as evolution. Yeah. All right, you guys. Amazing and also makes so much sense. Thank you so much, Beverly. And Mike says that dwell within us. And you're explaining. So I think it's for us to choose. Are you explaining that now? That dwell within us. I think I'm getting that, Mike, now. Thank you for that. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Please send us your best wishes for a retreat this weekend. And I'm so sorry if you guys wanted to come to this retreat and weren't able to come this time. I know it sold out really quickly, and I like to keep these particular retreats small because it is all about the community and the container. And but there will be another one in the future. I'm going to do these retreats. I'll probably do another one in the spring. So if it's on your radar and you want to come, just keep an eye out for it. I will announce it, and then just don't hesitate. Make sure you're ready. Just have it in the back of your mind that it's coming. And I'll do one in the fall and one in the spring is my plan. So, and then I think I'm probably going to do something else like a one day at some point that has been percolating in my mind, where a way that I could maybe go to different places and do a one day so that I would have a chance to meet some of you guys in person. So anyways, if that sounds interesting to you, let me know. And have a wonderful weekend. I'm sending you guys lots of love. And I'll see you next Friday live. Bye, you guys.